Another beautiful Monday morning is upon us. A beautiful morning to you. Welcome to your perfect day starter, the Morning Brief. I'm Kayode Okikulu.
It's good to be here. Good morning. Welcome. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Jeffrey Zama. Thank you as always. And welcome to Lagos, Nigeria, the nation's commercial nerve center. What's going on?
Oh, you said your name already?
Yeah, I have. You didn't hear me say it.
Just to be clear.
Whatever it is.
What a weekend it was. We're here to unpack for you. And Bukola, it's good to see you on a Monday morning.
It's good to see you too, Kayode. Thank you for rubbing it in.
So what do we have for you on the program this morning? Yes, it was a very eventful weekend, both on and off social media. So much going on, but we're here to give you a very healthy dose of all of the stories making the rounds and the important conversations. So naturally, we'll be starting from River State, where the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, that's the NNPCL, has announced the temporary shutdown of a Port Harcourt refinery. So we'll be taking a look at how this move will affect the price and availability of petrol. I know a lot of people are wondering, maintenance already? Is this like a vehicle where you have to do like a periodic maintenance and just shut down? Whatever happens to Dangote Refinery, why is it not doing the same maintenance? But that's where we're starting off on the show this morning.
Yes, and indeed it's curious, Kayode, after having spent over $1 billion on the maintenance.
1.5 billion actually,
yeah,
plus.
So, well, that's not all we have for you. We'll ask all those questions for you. We'll also head over to the world of business, where we'll be talking about the implications of the tax reforms and how states are looking to boost their internally generated revenue.
And from there, we'll talk about oil theft. Back to the issues of oil again from NNPCL. We're going to speak about it. Then we'll go back to oil theft. This time, a book has been written. I'll talk to the person who wrote that book about the issues around the riddle of oil theft, whether it's institutional, private, or a combo of both. We don't know. We'll find out in the program.
Oh, yes. And there's something to cheer us up on the program this morning, and that's sports. Sports has that effect anywhere. So we'll be sitting down with the chairman of the National Sports Commission as the nation is about to wind down, particularly Ogun State, let me be clear, on the National Sports Festival.
The Gateway Games.
Yeah, it's been colorful. It's been beautiful. So how do we build on this? These are the issues that I'll be raising with the chairman of the National Sports Commission, Mr. Shehu Diko, who will join us on the program today.
And that's not all. There's more, as we're joined by our tech advisor this morning to talk about how you can avoid digital scams. So it's a conversation that you must be a part of, particularly because we all use our devices and we are all sometimes prone to all of those, potential hackers. So how do you protect yourself? Find out from our tech advisor this morning.
Absolutely. And we'll also be talking to a nutritionist on the program to talk about all the food and all the options as much as possible. But don't forget what you're saying online, as well as what the dailies are saying. We will explore all of this. So it's a packed show right here on the program. But we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get straight to that conversation around the NNPCL shutting down for, we don't know, 30 days or so. Doing turnaround maintenance just 6 months after it came on stream. A lot to unpack. You don't want to miss it right here on the program. Stay with us.
On May the 23rd, the NNPC Limited put out a statement saying that the Port Harcourt refinery will be temporarily closed for maintenance. It was a statement that was put out to inform the general public of that planned maintenance. And that meant a lot of things for different people. So let's speak with the man whom you see there. We're joined by the National President of the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, Mr. Billy Gillis-Harry, joins us from our Abuja studio. It's good to have you on the program, Mr. Gillis-Harry. I'll just dive right into it because people saw this statement, and for a lot of people, it was a confirmation of that debate around whether or not Port Harcourt Refinery was just for photo ops, whether it was fully operational, was it blending, was it refining? And they said, well, we told you something was not right about that Port Harcourt Refinery. And there you see, 6 months after, it's going through maintenance. Does that make sense for you, Mr. Gillis-Harry?
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning, Nigeria. It's very difficult for us to put our hands around the realities in the matter, except what is being put out there. For us, as an organization, our goal is always to seek for how we can contribute to making sure that the economic wheels of Nigeria roll smoothly, because we know that we bring critical service of providing energy, to every nook and cranny of Nigeria. That's what Petron stands for, and that's what we're doing. And for that same reason, we made frantic efforts to make sure we were able to ask the necessary questions, visit the necessary people to be able to get answers. But whatever that's happening behind the scene, after we have been shown and demonstrated what's there, it's not what we can be able to talk about. But this sudden news of shutting down on the 23rd was a pretty shock to everybody, including us. And a couple of days ago, we had, from our technical evaluation, requested, that NNPC should do the best to give us a clear timeline on how our refinery should work. And if that's not working from their perspective, the important thing to do is to get private partnerships, private collaborators to ensure that the refineries are working, because that's the only way Nigeria could really guarantee our energy security. So we just saw the news the same way as it is happening to the rest of Nigeria, and we have expressed our concerns about that.
All right, Mr. Gillis-Harris, I know you are a frontline stakeholder as a private entity, because Petron is made up of private people who are also stakeholders and some kind of a pressure group. Don't you think it is time to ask very hard questions? I know you said it in the pages of the newspaper, but I also know that perhaps Petron, putting this on your doorstep, has a lot of knowledge as to how these things play out because of your status as a stakeholder. What do you think are the deeper issues here? Because when issues were raised about, first there were issues about the shifting of date for the commencement of the refinery, and then the issue of transparency itself, until there were leakages of memo as to whether they were blending. No crime in blending, but at least they did not tell us until we found out that they were blending. And then now to the shutdown. Don't you think that it is time for people like you, Petron, and the rest of them to make very solid, hard-hitting demand as to the level of transparency within the system to see exactly what we're dealing with? Because I fear that this is not just going to be a one-off. This is going to be repetitive.
Well, you can see that as a very committed, Nigerian organization that seeks for the stability and the growth of the economy, Petron has never kept shied away from, facing the hard facts, whether it is to encourage the system to be much more effective or to be more transparent, or to ensure that Nigerians have the best. We have never shied away from that. And we do, that is one of the promises we made when we came into office. I think that the questions that need to be asked now need to, come from the stable of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Because at the end of the day, he is also doubling as Minister of Petroleum. So we have taken our matter to him to say, Mr. President, please intervene in these issues and let certain levels of clarity be done, because it will be something that will affect the government's stability, growth, and delivery of promises that are made. We are dependent on this oil and gas for most of the budgetary requirements and needs of Nigeria. So yes, we demand for those, and we ask, that transparency, efficiency, should be the watchword going forward. And Nigerians should be, given the best of service from a company that is, from the analysis we have made, the NNPC today is well over 350 billion US dollars, making that the second largest corporation in Africa. And that's why we want to give the best support to the new management of NNPC. Engineer Bayo Jewelry is a very round hole in a round peg, and we believe that once he puts his feet down, things are going to be working.
All right, Mr. Gilisari, as you give support to the board of the NNPC, it may also be important to also ask questions at this time, particularly because you referred to transparency earlier on. And the report we're getting about the Port Harcourt refinery is that it hasn't produced in about 5 months. We've gathered that you and your team have visited the refinery, maybe not in recent times, but recently enough to tell us what you have seen. Help us understand how transparent processes have been based on what you have seen. Confirm whether or not it hasn't produced for 5 months, even prior to this shutdown for maintenance. And as you speak to that also, the tone of the report suggests that management is telling staff of the refinery to mind their business, not to talk to the press at all. This also raises issues of transparency.
Well, Petron led a very high-powered team as recent as March, and we clearly were demonstrated that the refinery was working, because the reason why we went on that emergency visit was we had also heard that production is not happening, but we went there and were taken around the facility. Production was going on, the flare was on, and of course the quality of products that were coming out of there were demonstrated and displayed to us. We saw the samples of products that were brought out. This is as recent as 27th of March. And so we had every reason to believe, that production never shut down. And but the only thing we were sure of was that PMS was not being produced, at the particular time that we visited. And we wanted to know why it was so, because we thought that PMS production was key. And of course, then we got some information that some part of the products that was needed to blend the PMS and bring it out was no longer working for certain reasons, and which I believe is why the host community is now coming out very hard on people that they think have not helped in making sure that the refinery works. So we will still want to call on the NNPC management at all levels to level up with Nigerians, because it is our taxpayers' money that we're using to pay their salaries, and it's so very critical that we must all be told what exactly is going on, and transparently too, and in a timely manner, so that we can be sure that in addition to the private refineries that are working hard, we have quite a lot of in-country production that's being made from the 3 refineries owned by NNPC also.
All right. Because of time, we understand that you have to run. Just to be clear, I know that there were talks around even Dangote Refinery having some sort of maintenance for June and all of that on the bit of maintenance part. But for the products bit, have you ever gotten PMS from the Port Harcourt Refinery? Have you ever gotten products, PMS from there?
Well, incidentally, PMS was produced, like we told the story at the earlier time. Our members applied for PMS from the same depots, and we were told to hold on, because the PMS that was being produced was all the time given to NNPC retail outlets, and we kept waiting. But we were still buying PMS from NNPC, from other depots, that have some level of collaboration with them, which we cannot tell what was the source. We're also buying PMS from our big brothers, Memman and Dapman, that are also importing products. And that's how we've been running. But we cannot, I cannot verify that PMS was being loaded from Port Harcourt Refinery depot.
All right, Mr. Agilis Harris, as we wind down just in about a minute. So two things I would like you to speak to. First is whether this is a time to actually looking at selling off NNPCL to private investors. I would like to speak to that. And you also think it's important that we begin to investigate everybody who was part of this, from Melekera and the rest of them, because something definitely is not panning out right, and something is happening that we need to call everybody that was involved in this one way or the other to come and give account.
Sorry, there's a little interference. Yes, we think that the refineries should be, working in collaboration with other private stakeholders, including all the, relevant stakeholders that are in the industry, that have experience and have passion and patriotic zeal to ensure that our economy moves consistently upward. And as far as we are concerned, the issue of transparency is very important. The issue of transparency is extremely important now, because as Nigerians, we need to be proud of what we have. And like I've just said, NNPC is a very powerful company that is operating out of Africa. And I'm very proud of that as a Nigerian. But let my pride also show on the streets, in the lives of ordinary Nigerians, in everyday life that we live. And this is just what I think we need to get done.
Just before we let you go, Mr. Gilisari, I'd like you to talk about pricing and how this shutdown may affect supply chain, as you referred to in your statement. First of all, even prior to the shutdown, why didn't the refinery, for the duration of the period that it worked...
There's interference. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
There's some other noise coming from somewhere else.
Okay, I'll try that again.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Clearly, yes.
For the duration of the period that the Port Harcourt refinery...
Bukola.
Yes, for the duration of the period that the Port Harcourt refinery worked, why didn't it impact on pricing, despite the proximity to residents? Reports at the effect that they're buying petrol at 1,000 naira per litre. And that's on the one hand.
I can hear you.
Yes.
But I'm not hearing Bukola speaking.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Mr. Gilisari?
I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Okay, so why didn't the proximity of Port Harcourt refinery impact significantly on pricing? There are reports that residents of Port Harcourt are buying petrol at 1,000 naira per litre. And during this shutdown, how will the shutdown impact on petrol supply in Port Harcourt and environs?
Well, like I said, petrol, PMS supply, we've always got PMS from other sources, to our retail outlets in that part of the world. And, but this shutdown is really going to be something we have to be watchful and encourage the NNPC management not to allow it to, be too extended. We need to there is a very strong concern about two times shutdown for maintenance since the refinery came on stream, one in December, and now we're having one in in May. So it's very important that we put an eye on that and encourage the government and also the NNPC management to ensure that the refinery comes on stream and stays on stream for as long as is possible, to ensure that we keep getting products. Prices of PMS in River State has always been one that is a very strong concern to us, because that is a place where we have two refineries already operating. We are hoping that Azika refinery from Bayelsa will swing in and also contribute to the production of PMS and distribution. Pricing as of this time will be something that will be difficult to predict, but it's going to impact very negatively on us because then we are going to be depending on the long haulage from Lagos and so on and so forth.
Well, I imagine for a moment if Nigeria was only relying on the Port Harcourt refinery for petrol, I don't know what will have happened. Maybe we'll have had to resort to the infamous we have reserve for 30 days, or we had to import and all of that. But clearly, a lot of issues need to be resolved in this, and we're grateful for the insight you've given us. We've been speaking with the national president of Petron, Mr. Billy Gilisari. Wish you a great day, and of course, we'll come back when there's need for more clarity.
Thank you.
So there you have it, some sort of insight into what's playing out in the petroleum industry, particularly with the Port Harcourt refinery. There are more questions to be asked, and we'll be doing just that. But we'll take a quick break, and when we return, there's more for you on the program. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at what the dailies are saying. Akim Dim is a lawyer, legal practitioner, joining us to give his insight on the issues. But there's a particular issue that is literally all over the pages today. Let's begin with the Abuja Inquirer. PDP crisis deepens as Wike declares all-out war. Fingers marking the Mba, vows to fight on. So this is getting dirtier. They are supposed to have their neck meeting tomorrow. As we speak, we're not sure what is going to happen. Because according to a statement released by Nyesom Wike, Mr. Kemini, it's to the effect that there were certain agreements that will build up a reconciliation, including withdrawing court cases and a plethora of issues. He said, well, they have reneged on those agreements by even going ahead to recognize someone else besides Samayan, which is one of the bone of contention. So he's pulling out of all agreement, and his words is going to fight on. I don't know what that means. Mr. Kemini, what do you make of it?
Well, thank you for having me. I have read the press release by His Excellency Nyesom Wike, the Honorable Minister of the FCT. My take on this is that the PDP needs to be careful. PDP really needs to be very careful so as not to see itself in a position that it might not be able to present candidates for the next election. But the press release by Nyesom Wike, not so much, I mean, what I have seen there is not so much for PDP to handle as a party. I think His Excellency Nyesom Wike is basically not happy with the fact that some persons in the party have refused to give recognition to Senator Samanyao. And it's something that the PDP can sit back. You know, sometimes you don't like the face of a person. But at this point, what can PDP do? I mean, it has gone up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has said, this is the man that is to serve as the secretary of the PDP. This is the man to sign documents for the PDP. If I were to be the leadership of the PDP, I would have simply accepted this man. Like I said, sometimes you don't like the face of a person. But once the court have said, go this way, then you just have to follow that way. Remember, this is not Court of Appeal. This is the Supreme Court. And from here, no appeal lies to any other place. And so when you look at that press release by His Excellency, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, a summary of it is just that he is not comfortable with the fact that some persons in the political party have not given recognition to Samanyao. And he has accused Governor Makinde of orchestrating the refusal to give recognition to Samanyao. And I am saying that at this point, the PDP needs to be careful. You remember what happened in Zamfara State, where the House of Assembly and most other persons that were elected were removed at the Supreme Court because of the fact that what was supposed to be done by a particular person, what was supposed to be signed by a particular person, was not signed by that person. It is at this point that I think that PDP should hold itself together. The leaders of the PDP, the stakeholders of the PDP, those that have been in the party from 1999 and are still there till today, those are stakeholders and all that, they should come together, have a meeting with the minister. In fact, just give recognition to this Samanyao. What is it? Samanyao is not going to liquidate the party. I'm sure of that. I'm sure he's also interested in having the interest of the party at heart. And therefore, why not work with him and then allow the smooth running of the party to be, because at this point, the PDP seems to have no other option than to work with him in view of the fact that the Supreme Court has made a pronouncement on this. And from what I have read, this seems to be the major problem of His Excellency Nyesom Wike when he says he's going to fight for justice, when he says he's going to withdraw from further reconciliation. But if he's, I would say, as a party man, you don't need to withdraw from reconciliation. Reconciliation is very important for the health of a political party. PDP has had the worst of times. Remember the Modu Sheriff time and Shinkafi. It was even more turbulent than this. And the party was able to, conquer that, put that together, and then move to the next stage. And I expect the same thing to be done. And for His Excellency Nyesom Wike, please, sir, do not say that you are not going to be part of the reconciliation moves anymore in your political party. That doesn't sound like a statement from a good party man. A good party man should be interested in reconciliation, in putting things back together in his political party so that his political party can move forward. And I know you give it to Nyesom Wike. He has done so much for this political party. He has spoken vociferously on issues about this political party, and I expect him to continue that way.
All right. Let's take a look at Vanguard newspaper now, Mr. Odim. Take a look at the headline. Anti-Tinubu coalition, Atiku, Obi, others shop for platform. And there are a host of riders there. We'll take maybe a few. Jigawa delegates disrupt coalition meeting. Will conclude talks in 2 weeks. Omosu, ADC chairman. We're considering SDP for new party. And lastly, Nigeria's problems can be solved from the north. That's ascribed to Peter Obi. So many things to reflect on there, Mr. Odim. And of course, there are reports that former River State Governor and former Minister of Transportation, Mr. Rotimi Amechi, was at that coalition, anti-Tinubu coalition meeting. So what is most significant for you from this coalition? That Jigawa delegates disrupted the meeting, or that this coalition is taking off on a shaky ground and may never head anywhere significant?
No, what is most significant for me about this coalition is the fact that Nigerian citizens have understood the benefit of coming together. It's like the broom. When you bring everything together in a bundle, it sweeps better. And I'm very excited about the fact that politicians have come to this realization that you need to come together to be able to contest the next election with the APC that is sweeping everywhere. Lots of, some governors have, a governor has already defected, the governor of Delta State. The governor of my state has already given clear indication that he is defecting, and you never can tell who else is defecting. And for that purpose, for that reason, there is need to have coalition of the various political parties in the country. We have so many political parties, some of them cannot really boast of presence in many places in the country. And therefore, the best thing is for them to come together like this, which is very commendable. The disruption of the meeting in Jigawa is rather unfortunate. I do not know why the disruption took place in the first place, but it's rather unfortunate. But that should not discourage those that are thinking about coalition. It should not discourage them. So what you need to do is, in your next meeting, ensure that there is adequate security in place. Ensure that if somebody lifts his hand for him to be given an opportunity to say something, allow him to say his mind. Allow him to say it irrespective of how it sounds. And then you get to the next person, so that we don't have the coalition being disrupted. But I must tell you that it is good for Nigeria for parties to come together. And when they come together, everybody should not think of being president, because everybody cannot be president. Let all the political gladiators in the coalition movement understand this fact, and let them come together and be able to choose a candidate that will sell. Everybody, when you say I cannot step down, I cannot be deputy, I cannot be at the back end, and so on, you are also destroying the coalition movement. Get a candidate and then support him.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. There's a lot more to explore, but for want of time, apparently, Wike is as much of a solution to the crisis as it is, because he is also a problem So the PDP must find an ingenious way to solve that riddle. In your submission, you said we're going to have time to explore all of this in the future, but everybody can see the telltale signs of what can be done and what, if it is not done, could cause problem for all of them. Everybody, this interest wrangling is, as a matter of fact, democracy is not safe without a viable opposition. That's what we keep preaching. Kemenudim, thank you. Legal practitioner joining us from Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll move away from politics to issues around governance. We'll talk about the issue of taxation, IGR, and a lot of other things. The money talk, actually, when it comes to public sector management. Join us in just a moment. We'll be right back. You've seen him already. Let's let's bring in Mr. Bimba Ashiru. He's the chairman, Odwa Investment Company Limited, and former commissioner for commerce industry in Ogun State. He has several other titles as well as achievements to his own right. Mr. Ashiru, thank you so much for coming on the program, sir. I think we can't hear you if you can unmute your device.
Sorry, Jeffrey, okay.
All right. Atumba, thank you so much for coming on the program. Good to see you. So let's get to the very first conversation, the very first part of the conversation. That has to do with, so one of the things, let's start with what the government is touting. We saw the other day the APC stakeholders, they call it, at their summit, midterm, that said they reviewed the report card of the president and they are okay with him and they've endorsed him as sole candidate for the re-election in 2027, meaning giving him the right of refusal. And we see what is playing out in the politics. But if we walk away from all of that, let's look at what is important, issues around governance. And one of the ways they've touted, one of the things they've touted is the issue of record high FAC allocation for the states, and that is a fact in Naira terms. But when we look at the impact of all of these monies that are being pumped into the system, do you think is really making a significant impact in that sense at the subnational level from what you see and what you know?
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Thank you for having me. I always tell people there's need for us to make the best out of the bad situation. I served as a commissioner for 8 years in Ogun State. And I can tell you that what we did is to ensure that we put the right things in place. If you are getting money from FAC and you are diverting it to something else, then there's a problem. And there's no people, there's no citizen of federal. They're all state citizens. And let me tell you this, as a government, state governors, when you get this FAC, you must channel it towards the right direction. And I'll give you good examples. I remember when we were in Ogun State during our tenure, we realized that there is need for proper infrastructure to be put in place. There is need for us to ensure that ensure that we create necessary and valuable environment for business to thrive. Even if you get this FAC, if you don't put it in let me give you a good example. Look at agriculture that will lead into industrialization. If you do proper agriculture and you engage young people, teaming young guys who can do this in each state, I'm sure we can, if you have about 50,000 hectares of land and you cultivate those lands, you'll be able to generate revenue in the state. But people look at, I'm happy now that most of the states, in the Southwest, even in Rivers, in Kano, Kaduna, even Niger, I could see that they are very active in agriculture and they are bringing in a lot of revenue. But if you get this fact, because there's too much noise about fact, I know that the fact that's coming in is more than what has been coming in before. So how do you channel these funds? Are you doing it rightly? Are you diverting the funds to something else? Or are you just giving contracts to people and probably? So we need to look at that. That's very key. And the most important thing that people don't realize is that states have the ones that we impact. It's the state and local government that we impact on people. And I'm happy now that there is autonomy for local governments. So that they can, when I was growing up, I've noticed that the local government are the ones that are actually giving direct impact to the people in terms of roads, infrastructure, even schools, then hospitals. They have, I mean, dispensaries that they go there and equip them. But now, I don't understand where the fact money, because you hear the governor say, oh, we've never had it better.
My apologies, sir. In that trajectory, if you maintain that trajectory, so for the records, we haven't, the autonomy is literally on paper. We haven't seen it as it should be because it's still in the works. That has been a conversation with the CBN as to full and proper implementation. But why I had to cut in was for you to marry this conversation with the issue of IGR. When FAC is released, just as you've alluded, we expect it to do well, to be directed at sectors that impact people mostly. But what we see is that as soon as FAC is released, these government people, they start changing it to dollar and naira issues. There's a hike in that sense. Naira becomes weakened. And then the issue of transparency with IGR. I would like you to speak to the issue of transparency with the IGR. A lot of states are not giving us the right figure, and there's a state we understand that part of the controversy that generated what they are dealing with today is because of inconsistency with what was declared before and what is being declared now. So I want you to speak to that as well, sir.
No, I agree with you, Jeffrey, and I will tell you this, and I'll be very frank with this. The issue of IGR, like you rightly said, the impact of the autonomy of the local government has not been, I mean, I agree with that. But let me tell you this. Even if you are talking about FAC, let's even forget about FAC. As a state, what are you generating in terms of revenue for your state? And I will give you a good example. When you create an environment for business to thrive, you have industries even paying taxes. I mean, for staff, the staff, look at even, let's say, civil servants, they pay taxes. So that's part of IGR, income generation. If you create jobs, even MSMEs, if you allow them to thrive, they will pay taxes. You'll be able to monitor everything. But the problem is that, like they said, there's no transparency, because I expect each state to put down their accounts and show it on a yearly basis. People must be accountable. We must start asking questions from our state governors, like saying, what have you done? Where is this? Where is that? Look at what you are showing. People working, they have no jobs to do, and that's why we have the increase in numbers of kidnappers. Where we should be doing the farming, the kidnappers are there. They don't allow the farmers to go to the farm because they can make money by kidnapping somebody and just get money. You are right about that. But I can tell you, some states, I can always tell people that there's no reason in Nigeria where no state should not be generating income. Look at, when we are talking about federation, look at some states in America. American states, they are independent. They don't rely solely on what they are getting from FAC. Let me tell you, if states cannot generate revenue and create jobs for the teeming young ones, we continue to have problems. Accountability is very key. So I can tell you that some of these state governors, they are not, even some of them, they just leave Lagos and they leave their states and go to Abuja looking for FAC. And when they get the FAC, and like you rightly said about foreign exchange, I told some people there is a law of demand and supply. The number of people that are taking, I mean, when you have so much dollar chasing dollar, too much naira chasing dollar, then you have problems. So the problem is that why would you be changing FAC when that's meant for diversion? And people should be queried. Maybe like I always say, that maybe this law of where you say you have military for governors or something that should be removed. And I think they are trying to pass that law. Let a sitting governor be made to face judgment. If that is done, then things will change. Because I noticed that people put so much pressure on the federal government. Oh, the president is not. No, it's the state governors that you should go and meet. Because there is the limited power that the president cannot, I mean, be telling the states how they run their states. But there's a reflection of what they are doing that is affecting the global things. Some governors are doing very well. I mean, we are in Lagos here. I mean, some of the Southeast governors, probably if you see what they are doing, you can see that they are pushing, I've seen many of them abroad looking for investors. Because it is when you bring these investors to your state that you'll be able to create jobs, generate revenue. But if you are just waiting for FAC, that they give it to you, it's just like a child, when you are schooling abroad, apart from your pocket money that you get, some of them, as a student, they still go and work. Some of us, we have to work so that we can get enough, generate enough funds. So that is what I expect the states to be doing. But you are very, very right that because of the result, there's no transparency. One state, the predecessor put out the account. He said it's not. Then bring your own account and let us marry everything. Let us see who is lying. Figures don't lie. We will know who is lying. But the problem is that in Nigeria, people get away with things. But the moment we have a scapegoat and somebody is being punished for it, and if they remove the immunity and a state governor is being allowed to face the EFCC, face the court, I think things will change. I can tell you that. There's no doubt that some of our state governors are not doing the right thing. They are just, I mean, they just believe in that office. I mean, get the siren, let everybody clear the road for you. No, people must have, maybe we should start now letting people be allowed to get the right people to rule the country. Because we know the right thing to do. People know the right thing to do. It's just that they are doing something else. You know what I mean? I mean, you are right with what you said, that some state governors, they couldn't even account for it. I mean, if you go to some states that are getting so much fat, the roads are bad. Infrastructure, in terms of agriculture, nothing is happening there. So there's a problem. I believe there's a problem. And it's a natural problem that we have not solved in this country.
All right, Otumba, the Guardian may have painted a mental picture of some of the things that you're saying this morning, you know, talking about the FAC allocation, despite the fact that, you know, Nigeria has saved over 7 trillion naira on subsidy savings. You know, this has failed to cushion hunger and hardship. So my question really is that, you know, when the federal government or the government begins to, you know, save on, rather when they begin to implement the tax reforms, if the states have been unable to manage, you know, subsidy savings over a period of 2 years, are you optimistic that there'll be anything significant when the tax reforms law kick into effect?
Let me be honest with you. The tax, I mean, I've gone through this thing as a former banker and someone that served in government. The tax reform that we have, there's nothing wrong with it, because it will make sure that the people that are earning higher will be able to pay, I mean, they pay more, while people that are not earning enough will probably be able to, I mean, will be taken away from. And let me tell you this, the problem is implementation. Are we disciplined enough? So I'm not optimistic, because the problem I have is that the people that are supposed to implement it, are they genuine? Are they sincere? I will tell you this, integrity matters a lot. And many people in our country, they don't have integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing when nobody is watching you. So that's the problem we have. That's been our problem. The issue of we have good laws, we have good plans in this country, but how do we implement it? And once, I mean, we are talking about people saying they are not getting. I remember growing up. I mean, even up till recently, they bring in tomato from the north and everything. But we can do that. Let me tell you, the money that they used in this country in the First Republic is the funds that generated from agricultural products. Nigeria used to be the second largest exporter of cocoa in the world. But what are we doing about that? Even when we get oil, we even export this. But the problem is that do we have people who are disciplined enough to implement these things? Our leaders, I mean, because we put everything on the doorstep of the president. No. What are the state governors doing? Some of these state governors, if you drive through some states, nothing is happening. So when you are talking about generating IGR as a state, no, they can generate IGR, but where do they implement? Where do they take the money to? People are not channeling the resources to the right direction. People, we could see it, we can see it, that, okay, we know the governors that are working, and we know the governors that are not working. If you go to their states, you see it. So the problem is that, are they disciplined enough, or it's just business as usual? That's what we have to. So I will tell you, I'm 50-50 about it, because it's not the president or the federal that will come and now implement that. I mean, for example, the tax reform bill that says that employees who earn a taxable income of 800,000 annually from payee, they'll be exempted. But that is okay. But what about the people that are earning higher income? Somebody will go from the tax office and go and meet them, collect money from them, corruption, and say, okay, don't just pay this. So we see the moment that you have any law in Nigeria, you make some people billionaires. Because some people will circumvent it, they will still go behind to collect this money and take it out. So that's the problem we have. We must maintain this. It's a serious offense in America. You will go to jail if you don't pay your tax. It's a very, even I think in England too, but in Nigeria, they will get away with it. So the problem is, are we going to have people that are going to compromise? If not, then we are going to, but people will compromise because of the level of poverty. And what is the level of poverty? It is our leaders, our governors, that are creating the poverty in the states. So the point is that if we create jobs for our people, I listened to the South African president telling the president of America that, look, we will reduce the number of people killing people in South Africa. If we get jobs, create jobs for people, and they are busy doing something.
Right.
People are not busy doing something. They are busy stealing. I mean, the leaders are stealing money, while the people are saying, "Oh, if this man is riding Rolls Royce, I know he had no money before. Then I can steal." Look for the alternative way.
You know, Otumba, it's quite interesting, the situation we find ourselves. On the one hand, you still have businesses bearing a huge burden. You get to some places, you have to pay for VAT, 7.5%, that you pay, is it consumption or service tax, about 5%.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you are literally paying way more, even though VAT is meant to be some sort of consumption tax, but there's still another tax that you have to pay. So you have businesses who are losing patronage because of the tax burden. You see people looking at their receipt and they say, well, I'm not coming here again if I have to pay almost 15% for tax, right? But then you have the government on the other hand. And my question is basically to see if we can learn from the private sector, because you have the public sector underperforming time and again for a number of reasons. There's a consideration of politics. A lot of the governors are thinking about re-election, right? So some of the things they want to do, they might not be able to do them because they don't want to ruffle feathers. But then you still have a lot of systems operating so well. The people that collect money at the bus stops, you have these young boys. They have a way of remitting those taxes. Now, whether or not it is remitted into government coffers, or it's money for the boys, or money to oil the political wheel, is another thing entirely. But what is that thing governments can learn from the private sector in terms of efficiency, such that we can look at our government and say, there's corporate governance, and this government we're sure would deliver on its mandate?
Thank you, Kaudi. I mean, that's a very good question. I happen to work in the private sector as a banker, and I served in government. I was able to see in between what is going on. The issue is, the problem we have is that when you're in government, people just, it's like a curve. You just see somebody who is in the private sector that was doing very well, gets to government, and just change. And the problem is that because most people, they've compromised. The only way forward, let me give you a good example, and I'm sorry, I have to use a place where I start. In Ogun State, then, we found out that people are just throwing things on the road, stopping people. And what did we do? We introduced harmonized taxes. I mean, I will give you an example. Dangote Industries, they had about 1,098 trucks that are plying the roads. When we introduced harmonized, we gave them a ticket that will be placed on those vehicles. And I can tell you, we made a lot of money in Ogun State. And that was what is why IGR improved, because the money is not going to anybody's pocket, and we introduced uniform taxation, so you pay directly into the bank account and you get the document. During the time, we found someone that collected a fake ticket, and they were selling that. We arrested the fellow, and prosecuted him. It gave room for. So the point is that there shouldn't be any reason why some people should be staying by the bus stop and collecting money, because the money goes into their pocket. It won't go to the state. So that is another area where there is leakage. But the point is that you can introduce state government. If state government, they are deliberate and saying, "Good, we want to improve on the infrastructure, we want to improve on things." When you collect those funds, you go straight to the government. You have funds that we now use to help everybody. We are allowing money that is meant for everybody going to some people's pocket. When we introduce that, all these companies, Lafarge of this one, all the industries, they were paying to Ogun State government account. I mean, paying as much as 458 million, and we even saved those companies, because when you pay cash on the road, it's not accountable for. If somebody collected 10,000 and declares 5,000 naira and issue it, and they have their own receipts that they have gone to print, so we stop all those things. So the problem is that the government of every state must be deliberate about all these things. You must plan ahead and think. But the problem is that, like you rightly said, in private, I will give you a good example. I mean, I work with Stanbic IBTC. During Christmas, if you are giving anything more than 25,000 naira, you have to declare it. But in government, they think it's their own right for somebody to bribe you, to give you money. It is wrong. So that is what is creating problems in Nigeria.
Thank you so much for the insight. As always, we've had to bring in your private sector experience as well as your service in public to make sure that we give a holistic intervention to this very nagging issue, especially now that the tax reform is in the works and will soon be assented to by the president. Otumba Bimba Ashiru is the chairman of Odua Investment Company Limited, the former commissioner for commerce and industry in Ogun State, an investment and strategic management experts with a couple of other achievements. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Kaude, and thank you, Buki. It's nice to see you guys. Have a blessed day.
You too, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Okay, from here we switch gears. So what you are talking about on the pages of social media, that's the way we choose to call it. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Let's do a rundown of some of the big stories on the front page of social media. By the way, we'll be getting into the sports bit eventually on the show. So for sports lovers, don't worry. There's a whole package for you, particularly with the sports festival, sports generally in Nigeria. Now that at least some of the leagues that you've been paying attention to are over. We'll talk about sports in Nigeria, but let's talk about some of the things making the rounds this morning. There have been lots of meetings over the weekend. Politicians meeting with celebrities. It's gotten a lot of people talking. But take a look at this, well, very first one. The Jigawa delegates disrupting Atiku and Peter Obi coalition meeting. So yes, there was that meeting in that sense, having these political leaders coming together. But we're told that some of the delegates tried to disrupt that meeting. So let's take a listen to what happened. So that was meant to be a meeting to come together, discuss issues, that high-level coalition meeting. You know, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, former River State Governor Rotimi Amechi, and others were at that meeting at the Abuja Continental Hotel. It was organized by the National Political Consultative Group, but it was briefly disrupted following a disagreement over representation from Jigawa State. So you had a former SGF, Babachir Lawal, announcing a delegate to speak for the state. But several delegates stormed the stage, blocking that individual from speaking and insisting that they will not be represented by those names. So that moment was, of course, captured, and I imagine what was going through the minds of the people there. Because it's a coalition that is meant to pull together strongly, but they will call this a momentary setback for a bigger comeback. Guys.
Okay, Bukola, you have the next one.
All right, let's go to Edo State now, as youths there were seen protesting against EFCC's alleged invasion of their residences. And the protests, according to reports, caused traffic gridlocks on the Ugbowo-Lagos Road, turning violent, I believe, as well, when they attacked and vandalized a van conveying personnel of the Edo State Security Corps. The youths were armed with placards lamenting the arrest of their colleagues and constant harassment by security agencies. We understand that they expressed strong reservations about the tagging of their colleagues as Yahoo boys. And according to reports on other platforms, they say that they're unhappy with how EFCC goes to hostels, students' hostels, to conduct raids there, in what seems a continuous tagging of many of their friends and colleagues as Yahoo boys. Now, this is very, very unpleasant to watch. We must not become what we condemn. And, this is, this according to reports, is another, they are reportedly attacked a vehicle conveying some security officials. And some people would say that, some of those protesting are Yahoo boys. That has not been confirmed, but this is not civil and is distasteful in every sense of the word.
All right, there's a lot more to show you. There's a lot you've been saying on social media. So let's get to the one that has to do with the Chinese man seen brutally assaulting or beating two boys in dehumanizing way. This is not the first time. I'm not sure where this happened, what location this is, but this is not the first time we're seeing situations like this, and this is just painful. So viewer discretion, I should say, is advised. So I do not know what these gentlemen or these young boys did. Did they steal? Did they commit a crime? I do not know. But whatever the intent or whatever it is, this is wrong, unacceptable, and this foreign individual should be arrested and questioned. So no matter what they did, there is police. I'm sure the company has security who he could have handed them over to or brought in the police to arrest them. So he should be arrested and made to pay for taking the laws into his hands, especially in Nigeria.
Whew. So there you go. This next one, by the way, is more of the issues that caused controversies as well. This one is coming from Nollywood. I see actor Godwin Nadiekwe, we understand, has been hospitalized after an onset kick by Zubi Michael. So you'd almost think this was like a scene from a movie, but clearly not. Now look at that.
It's from a movie set, right?
No, it's a movie set,
Yeah.
but this scene is not a movie scene.
Oh. So was this part of the movie scene that he overdid? I think so. I guess they were shooting and they were supposed to hit the guy and run into the house. But you know, there were amateur cameras and all of that taking shots. I don't know what this is, but it appears, I can't confirm, but it appears this was supposed to be what he's supposed to do in the film.
No, this is not global standards. If you want to do, that's if this is a scene from a movie.
No, what I'm asking is, he's supposed to, whether he's supposed to do it lightly or softly, that's not the question. I'm saying this is supposed to be part of the scene.
I don't think this.
I think we need clarification from the director of the movie as to whether or not this is part of the script.
Because I'm told it wasn't
part
of the script.
So you just wanted to improvise in that sense?
I don't understand.
If it's not part of the script,
stunts being done,
if it's you know, private rehearsal by actors, you know, between themselves, then there should have been more caution deployed. There are stunts, you know, deployed here every now and then to make such scenes look real. But that this actor has been hospitalized, then we need explanations, you know, about safety precautions and relations between actors on set of movies.
Well, I
brought that to you. Let's go to the next one.
I just hope the guy is better now, but I understand he's been hospitalized, and Zubi should refrain. We need a stunt person to do that, so you don't go and kill somebody on set. I hope he apologizes and takes care of the bill. But
absolutely. So let's go to the next story. This time, we have a picture slide of the agency. That's the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency intercepting 6.5 billion naira worth of opioids in Lagos and Rivers ports. There you have it. That's the picture there. And we gathered that you know, some of the drugs include tramadol and the likes. Now, what is significant about this is that they were intercepted at the ports. So the airports are not the only, you know, viable routes for, you know, these men of questionable character to transport outside or inside the country, you know, hard substance, illicit substances. There must be more scrutiny and more diligence of relevant agencies at the ports, you know, to intercept these illicit drugs as well. Okay. There you have it, 6.5 billion naira.
Yeah, commendable to NDLEA. We've always commended them for these interceptions, and we'll continue to commend them. Let's head to what played out. Cubana Chief Priest is a socialite and is in the tourism, hospitality business in Nigeria. He's made some visit with Davido to top officials of government. Now this is for the president, I think. That's one of the young Senator Asokwo.
Yeah, that's the spokesperson.
No, I think that's Senator Asokwo.
Yeah,
Okpayong from Cross River, maybe leading them. He's visited the president, visited the vice president, the Senate president, the speaker. I don't know what's going on, but let's hear what the people are saying. I'm curious to hear what the people are saying online. Mr. Mehdi says, only poor fight the government. The rich wants to expand by connecting with them. Bukola and Kayode, you have the next ones.
I don't know, but this, I think people should get ready. The build up to 2027, you see a lot of things that will jar you, that will maybe shock you. But I mean, these are people that have the freedom to choose who they want to associate with.
Exactly.
And in any case, some of them have not hidden their support from the government. I know the challenge with the kneeling down had to do with the Igbo culture. The Igbos kneel down or otherwise. But, you know, there are some places you get to, particularly in this context, you forget your either home training or your culture.
No, it was I don't think they kneel down.
Exactly. But in this case, I'm sure
they can bow, but they don't kneel.
But this man just forgot all of that. I mean, this is vice president, this is the president, so I'm sure he stepped it down. But hey, do not die over these battles, okay? Because at the end of the day, you always find a way to settle.
It's very unfortunate. It's very not unfortunate is not the word. It's very interesting. So choose your battle rightly. These guys, they are aligning. You may not like what they are doing, but they will still do it till tomorrow.
Well, to borrow Kade's words, in certain circles, you know, sycophancy is taken for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So that's as if you define that approach by the chief priest as sycophancy. But, you know, let's go to the next one. And I'm quite particularly excited about this one. This is an artwork, you know, as a masterpiece, and it's best. This young lady, you see her there, she's carving out the face of Mr. President from a watermelon ball.
That's what fun.
And she got it to precision. Yes, you heard me right. There you have it. Amazing, right? I haven't seen this ingenuity in recent times.
It's not as perfect as it should be.
This is not oil on canvas. This is... Our producer said this is watermelon on canvas.
Or canvas or water, whatever.
So we must have a commender attempt at, you know, we can see she did other things, the coat of arms, a couple of other things. These are attempts at carving the face of the president. I don't think this was meant to ridicule anybody. She's just showing her artistry in that sense. So she tried, not as perfect as should be, but I'm just looking at the price of the watermelon. This is like 4,555.
And I can see the features. First, I can see the cap. I can see the nose.
To just smile about,
the teeth. Well, yeah, I don't know.
Cap.
Good use of watermelon. What happens afterwards, you know? Because we have to say great job.
Well done. Well done. And that's it on the front pages of the social media. We'll head back to the big stories for our next conversation after this time out. Join us again. Welcome back. And on this next segment, we take a look at an in-depth look at crude oil theft in Nigeria's Niger Delta region, and through the lens of a book authored by His Royal Highness Bubara Dakolo, the Ibenanowe of Ekpetiama Kingdom in Bayelsa State. The title of the book is The Riddle of the Oil Theft, a compelling book that delves deep into the complex web of oil theft in Nigeria's Niger Delta region. Now, the author himself joins us on the program this morning, His Royal Highness Bubaraye Dakolo, the Ibenanowe of Ekpetiama Kingdom. Good morning, Your Royal Highness. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Good morning.
And so we've taken a brief look at some of the high points of the book, and you expound on the use of advanced technology and even phishing in, you know, the execution of crude oil theft in the Niger Delta region. Talk to us about, you know, what it took you to embark on the research for this book and some of the high points of your findings as we start off.
Well, the book is capturing a lifetime from my childhood, where I was taught by the first oil well was 2 years in 1956. And I lived at the refinery also where the Refinery is today. Where I work in the pipeline school. And my sons, the refinery where ship water the entire world used to make a petroleum product.
Your Royal Majesty, we're having difficulty hearing you, so we're going to pause for a break and try to rectify it and then return to you shortly. So please hold on. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and we still have with us His Royal Highness Bubaraye Dakolo, the Ibenanowe of Ekpetiama Kingdom from Bayelsa State. And we're trying to unravel or resolve, if you like, the riddle of crude oil theft in the Niger Delta. And that's the title of his book, The Riddle of the Oil Thief, Exposing Nigeria's Crude Reality. Thank you for holding on. We hope that the communication is better now. So go ahead with the high points of this book.
Yeah, so I was just given the background. You asked about the research. And so it took a lifetime, I would say, from when I was born at Otuabagi, where the first oil well was drilled, to schooling at Ibulia Dikibo at Okrika, living at the refinery quarters, working on naked pipelines, surviving the war itself, and then going to school where the pioneer operational base, headquarters of Shell, was in Bayelsa State. And then, of course, the fact that crude oil theft and pollution has been a recurring decimal, and having received countless envoys and friends and researchers, I thought I should put something in black and white. And so that is the riddle of the oil thief. That is how the book came about. The fact is that Nigeria got so concerned about oil theft close to 30 years ago. And in 1998, the Joint Task Force, security outfit that has the military, the police, the NSCDC, the DSS, and everyone was put there together to ensure that pipeline vandalism, oil theft, and the likes were stamped out. But this is 27 years after. We are still discussing oil and gas theft, and sometimes oil production has come to an all-time low during this period. So what I do know is that the Nigerian state, that is the federal government of Nigeria, does not know who an oil thief is, because it is surprising that for this long, not one oil thief has been arrested, prosecuted, and jailed. So if you go to Kirikiri prison, for instance, or Kirikiri Correctional Center, as it is now called, there's not one oil thief in their list of persons ever jailed. If you go to Kogi prison, there's not one oil thief in that list. If you go to Kuje prison as well, there's no oil thief that is listed amongst those who have ever been jailed. So no oil thief has been jailed. And from the records we have today, there are about 200,000 barrels of crude oil stolen every day. And this amount of crude oil, you can't put it in your mouth. You can't put it in your pockets. So ocean-going vessels are used in stealing them. But the Nigerian state is chasing victims of oil thievery. Those who are not able to go to school, those who are not able to buy shorts for themselves, buy trousers for themselves, those who can't afford 3 square meals. And so those are the ones that are chasing about in the creeks, when really an oil thief does not want to even ever come to the Niger Delta because he has no business there. The place is too contaminated for him. He can be in New York, he can be in London, he can be in Abuja, he can be in Lagos, and be doing the oil thievery using some expendable persons, the ones I call victims of oil and gas theft. So unfortunately, Nigeria loses from losing crude oil, 200,000 barrels or so a day, and then loses from trying to look for oil thieves without catching one for all these decades. So that is the dilemma of Nigeria. So it is a riddle because the thieves are the ones calling non-thieves thieves. Thieves are calling suspect thieves. Thieves are calling village people, those in the Niger Delta, thieves. There's hardly any Niger Delta person, someone who lives there in the creeks, that can be properly accused for stealing the crude oil and gas, because where will he keep it? You have to have ships. There's nobody in the Jaw land today that has a ship to himself. None in my kingdom, none in any kingdom in Bayelsa State. And so that is the riddle. The riddle is that even though it is clear, everyone knows that most of the estates that don't have anybody, any name attached to them in Abuja belong to these people. And these monies are all put into banks. And so bank MDs and everyone knows them. The security agencies knows them, but nobody looks at them. They look rather at someone else. So it's like going into a warehouse where there are 1,000 bags of rice or
Your Highness.
And then there are 100. Hello?
Just land on your thought, Your Highness.
Yes, then there are 100 rats there. So if you put a video, if you put a camera there and you film the rats, they will look menacing, punching a hole in almost every bag. But how much rice or how much gari will they ever eat in that place? Compared to if some executive of that same firm goes there with a trailer and collects 500 bags in one night. So if you look at the difference, you see that the real thief comes, well-dressed, and if you see a video of the thief, you will think that he's the owner of the warehouse. You will never, ever assume that he's a thief, but that is the thief. So the confusion, the federal government not properly defining who an oil thief is, has set us in this trajectory. As we speak now, about $3 trillion worth of oil has been sold over the years or has been extracted over the years. And then most of it outrightly stolen, never brought to Nigeria, never came to Nigeria. Of course, you must have also heard of the Abacha loot, which even though the man has died for about 27 or so years, the money keeps coming every year. I believe we are going to receive some this year. So that is about 1 trillion. Then the 2 trillion that has come into Nigeria over the years for use in managing governance and building all the cities except the cities in my own place are also part of it. So those ones are the ones eaten by cows, stolen by fishes, eaten by rats and swallowed by snakes and so on and so forth. So there is no proper accountability. The mismanagement of oil and gas resources is the story. Nobody wants to frontally say, okay, this is an oil thief, or this is the definition of an oil thief. In the course of this discussion, perhaps I will define who an oil thief is for everyone.
Your Highness, I wish we had a lot more time to expand the conversation, but within the 2 or 3 minutes we have, so who exactly in your books is this oil thief?
Who is the oil thief? Well, I can tell you who an oil thief is, first and foremost, and then who an oil thief is not. The oil thief definitely are not the youths you see in the Niger Delta that are painted as oil thieves. The oil thief usually will have properties in Banana Island and in choice places in Abuja. The oil thief will have properties in London and other parts of Europe and America. The oil thief will have a yacht. The oil thief will have a glossy skin. The oil thief wouldn't want to come to the Niger Delta, to the creeks of the Niger Delta, even for a day. If he has to come, he will come with a military escort, he will come with police escort, mobile escort, doctors, nurses, and all. In case he's bitten by a mosquito, they will have to cure him because he loves his life so dearly. He wouldn't want to take the risk of coming to be in the swamps of the Niger Delta.
So 2 things I gather from what you've said, and I must commend your approach to this conversation. It's very, very clinical in that sense. It brings in poetry, humor, and all of that, but still points to the real issues. And that way, maybe we're able to make headway with this kind of approach. So from what you've said so far, it sounds as though you're saying the Nigerian state is complicit, a very active accomplice in all of this. It also sounds like you're saying the oil thieves themselves seem very powerful, perhaps even more powerful than the Nigerian state. Am I right on that, on those 2?
Yeah, I think you should be right, because if you read the books, not my book, the books, Ken Saro-Wiwa was killed, and the greatest suspect was first Shell, and then the Nigerian government. So if these 2 bodies are fingered for having to kill someone who was protesting for minority oil and gas rights, then you can imagine. But I'm right now in Benin for a home health program, Health of Mother Earth Foundation program, that has to do with my writings about the environment and about oil and gas pollution. So I'm in Benin, not in Bayelsa State.
All right, Your Royal Highness, we must commend your activism, and we hope that your book becomes one of the instruments, for which, okay, we seem to have a bit more time. So, I'm spoiled for choice in asking this. So, what are the recommendations from your book that will help to refine Nigeria's crude reality and probably end crude oil theft or lead us to identifying and prosecuting these, in your own words, executive thieves?
Well, the recommendations are in the book. If you read it, you will find it. Over the years, I have come to realize that if something appears so easy and cheap, people don't place value on it. So you must first of all understand the dynamics of oil and gas thievery, how people really steal the oil. And then, of course, if you now see the recommendations, it will make sense. For instance, we have law enforcement. Law enforcement has been there in Nigeria since independence. And so how many oil thieves have they ever apprehended and taken through the processes and jailed? So that's a question. So I am not going to say this is the solution, but the agencies of government that are supposed to ensure that nobody steals anything are there. The police is there. They're supposed to arrest and prosecute. And then, of course, the funniest one is when you get the best security agencies in Nigeria, you put them together to come and try to prevent oil and gas thievery. And then for 27 years, they've not caught one thief. Rather, sometimes you see some people that don't even look like they've ever eaten a day, being paraded to deceive everybody. So, I mean, such kind of ridiculous things. So and then, of course, like the DPR, which was the regulator before, and then NUPRC, are the worst set of regulators ever in the universe. They have never, ever regulated anything in the sector. They have been in the pockets of the oil and gas industry in terms of the IOC. So they have not been effective in any way. So it's, if we want to go forward, then it's have a more pointed discussion, not this one on television. And then the things that are supposed to be done will be made clear. For instance, why is no Nigeria talking about availability of petroleum products everywhere in Nigeria, in the creeks of the Niger Delta? Okay, you are going to disturb people who are managing to make a living out of whatever, because there's no alternative. Petroleum products, if they're available in everywhere in the creeks of the Niger Delta, just like rice, if you have Uncle Bent, you're not going to eat stones. So instead of focusing on providing petroleum products to Nigerians, they're focusing on those who are going to do fake. Will anybody sell fake product when the original product is affordable, available, and affordable? The answer is no. So I think the emphasis should be on the fact that the federal government of Nigeria must make available petroleum products, and then most of these other things will fizzle.
All right. Again, we commend your activism and, in fact, your calm and intellectual approach to, understanding a complex issue. His Royal Highness Bubarai Dakolo, Ibenanawe of Ekpetiama Kingdom, thank you for your time on this segment. Your Royal Majesty has joined us virtually from Benin City in Edo State. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And there's more to come on the program. We'll celebrate and look at the opportunities and benefits from the just concluded Gateway Sports Festival. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
There's something big, colorful happening in Nigeria, and that's the conversation we were having backstage. So let's bring that conversation to you. The National Sports Festival 2024 Gateway Games. It's been beautiful to see, from the opening ceremony to the competitions. High stakes, really. At this point, let me just give you a snapshot of what the medals table looks like. Delta is top with 61 gold medals. Bayelsa, looks like the South states just came to sweep all of the gold medals. Bayelsa with 39. That's as at 11 p.m. right yesterday. Then Ogun is third, of course, the host state. We have joining us on the program this morning the chairman of the National Sports Commission, Mr. Shehu Diko, is right there with us. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My pleasure.
You must be a fulfilled man right now.
Well, we're getting there.
We're getting there. So it's important to keep things in focus.
Yeah,
the Gateway Games is still on until Thursday.
Yeah.
So it's not over until it is over. And I know other states are trying to compete. Now, we've had the National Sports Festival time and again, but it looks like this is a bit different. from the opening ceremony, the color, the people who attended, to the general quality of the game. What is different this time around? Did you do something different? Is there another ingredient that was put in? How has this turned out this way so far?
Well, yeah. You know, when Mr. President woke up and said he's scrapping the Ministry of Sports and bringing the National Sports Commission to make sports more professional and more deliberate and more intentional, and then to create the sports economy. So we are actually taking a huge leap from where we were before to a new reformed lane where we have to do things differently. By the time we came in, myself, my DG, Bukola Alapade, and my colleagues, we came in with a new mandate, with a new focus, that we have to do things differently, and we have to be more professional, and we have to upscale everything we are doing to the best level we could do that. And so this festival was supposed to be 2024. The first thing we did, we said, no, hold on. Let's move it a little bit forward. Let's allow us to, ourselves, Ogun State government, because we are collaborating to put it together, let's allow ourselves the time to put the best games we can put. And we clearly have a vision. The vision is Ogun 2024 should be the benchmark going forward. So we want to put up the best sport festival ever, so that we'll have a benchmark. Then the next host, which is Enugu, should also do better. The next host should be better, so that's how we can keep improving. So across all parameters, we have to do things differently. And thankfully, those that have been following the sport festival have all attested this is the best that we have had so far. And across so many of the active, from the sports perspective to the other back-end issues, even the economy, we're looking at the back end, the bottom line, because it's not just about the games. Yeah. It's about what you are putting at the back end, how many people are getting employed, how many people are getting business out of it, what is the impact assessment to the economy of Ogun State. So all these clearly have changed. And so to the glory and to the credit of Mr. President, this is the first sport festival under the renewed hope. And everybody is seeing, yes, there's renewed hope and a shared prosperity going with it. Hopefully, we build from here.
So let's talk about two things. I'm happy you mentioned the bottom line in terms of profitability in that sense. I would like you to speak to it. Are we making and recouping money as we should, as the Sports Commission in that sense organizing? Because these are kind of Olympics in itself. So, but the other thing I noticed, correct me if I'm wrong, is we saw the publicity of the opening games was beautiful. Camera angles, the parade, it was beautiful to see. But I don't know how much of consistency there is to being able to access to watch the game from home daily, like we see dedicated channels. What happened with that?
Yeah, of course. Well, let's start with that. The opening game, yes, everybody saw it globally.
It was beautiful.
Very beautiful. A lot of calls all over the world. People are asking, is this Nigeria? So kudos to Ogun State, the Sports Commission, to our colleagues for putting that together. Governor Dapo Abiodun have done amazingly well by being very intentional and being part of it. He's the #1 marketer and promoter of the games. You know, he led by the front line. And he promoted it, and he now clearly agree and align with the thinking. That it's not just about the hosting, it's not about spending the money to do the infrastructure. It's about what is we bringing to the state. And that's what we are looking at. And so far, it has been quite amazing. And even on the commercial side of it, I think by the end of the game, we are going to release the results of the commercial perspective of it. This is also one of the best games in terms of the commercial perspective, because the sponsors and the partners that have come in to support the games, you know, like the headline sponsor, I'm sorry to say Premium Trust Bank, for example, have done amazingly well and put a lot of resources into it. So it's also another level working there. On the broadcast, yes, we have Team 33, the production partners who are producing all the games and getting all the content. Some channels were putting them live daily, like before some other sister time channels. We're able to have been putting some games daily, but we could have done much better. Now the YouTube channel is up as well. You know, so you can see, if you go to the National Sports Commission YouTube channel, you can see different venues live. All the event happening live. At least you allow people to do that. You can Google it and see it there. You can see like 5-6 venues live at the same time and stuff like that. So, but you know, we have challenges on the sports production in this country, and it's part of what the Sports Commission is trying to resolve. I think before the next festival, we will likely have completed that process, and we'll have our own dedicated sports channel for Nigeria, not the channels that we can put on all networks, and we could have our dedicated production teams. That will make things easier for all the TV networks. We'll produce everything, and we'll just give you the content the way they do all over the world, and you can now use it the way you want to use it. So this has to be improved definitely as we move forward.
You've talked a bit about the business, approach to doing this, but perhaps you could elaborate on it, such that after the conclusion of these games, it would not be to your tent, O Israel, to all the sportsmen and all the other participants in the ecosystem of this sports value chain that has been created. So for not just Ogun State now, even for other states of the Federation that may be gearing up to host, is there a business proposal template or a strategy that would, keep the vibrance of the sports ecosystem alive and will at the same time, build grassroots sports in all states of the Federation such that we're prepared, for international competitions?
Yeah, of course. The template is, for example, now to make sure you have the right infrastructure. That's the benchmark for any sports development and sports economy. So now Ogun State have done amazingly well, have put off beautiful infrastructures across all sports, and they have them available. So and already we are thinking ahead together with Ogun State, because you cannot just put all that money investment and yes, you are doing it for only 2 weeks. After the festival, you shut down and go away. No, you have to create the platform to continue creating what we call the sports economy, the weekend economy. What kind of sports activities you'll be having in the state on a weekly basis that will make those facilities to be worthwhile, and that will bring the fans out to go to the stadium, which is what created the sports economy we're talking about. So we're thinking ahead. Already now, Ogun State have made a deliberate thinking, aligning with us, that they want to host as many events as possible. That's the way you put your facilities working and create the buzz going. When they happen, for example, in the global world, you can see every weekend there are huge matches across all the leagues. People leave their houses, they travel to watch those matches. Those people that are bringing out of their homes, they are now distributing the wealth because they spent money in the transportation, in the restaurants, in whatever. So they are distributing wealth across the people. And this is basically what is happening in Ogun State now. I'm sure by Thursday, a lot of people will be crying, because the kind of market, the kind of business, the smaller business have done, even people selling water, selling small things at the stadium, selling shoes, selling whatever it is around there will make a lot of money. So how do you sustain that? Now the first thing that we have done, we have already secured the hosting of the African Under-18, Under-20 Championship, which is happening in July again in Ogun State. So we'll have another 2,000, 3,000 people all over Africa that will flee into Ogun State. These people are coming with dollars actually. So the market will even be much higher to do that. We have the WAFU Under-17 also going to take the friendly matches for the Falcons. So Ogun State is being a hub of that. And this is the way now you keep revolving it and keep making it an economic activity, creating the valuation. And then with that, you have to make sure that the domestic athletes are using also the facilities for their preparations, for their trainings, which make the facilities to be maintained because it's being used always. And then you are giving the best facilities to prepare for the grassroots development.
And it's good to hear some of the plans. But, the National Sports Festival, yes, it's a litmus test for your administration in that sense, but it's a little part of the bigger picture, the bigger sports picture in Nigeria, which is vast and a lot of times problematic. Aside the power industry, maybe sports has also been one area that a lot of people have eaten breakfast and they've seen heartbreaks, because you see the potential. You see all of the talents we have, but when it now comes to managing these potentials, these talents, it's just really a mess. And we can talk about different sports. These are things you know, so let's just get right into it. I will describe you as some sort of minister for sports in that sense, since we don't have a minister. So you are the minister for sports in that sense. So you have a tough job to do. First, have you identified the major problem of sports management administration in Nigeria? If you have, what has it been?
Yeah, of course, we know the problem. And that's why when we came in, we came with a plan that is anchored on what we call the 3 R's. That we have to reset our thinking, we have to refocus what we are doing, and we have to relaunch our sport. So it's called the 3 R's. What do you mean by resetting? The major problem of our sports in this country is because we are more focused on competitions. Everybody is just thinking, when is the next Olympics? When is the next World Cup? All our minds and hearts are there. Nobody cares about what are you doing in the domestic scene. All over the world, it is the domestic industry that now be the anchor, whatever you are doing. We have the best league in England, for example, football. Everybody watches the Premier League. They say it's the best in the world. But can you remember when last England won the World Cup? 1966.
There's a song for it.
That's the last time they won a major football tournament. But they now build what they call the best football league in the world, which makes 3 million people every week to go out of their houses all over the country. Do you know what that means for the economy? Those people will not sit idle at home. They go around and create a weekend economy, So if football now is removed from UK now, the economy will collapse, basically, because of the foreigners that are coming every week. So, because they build the domestic sector. So we now say we have to reset our thinking. We should focus more on our domestic sports, across all sports. We should create an ecosystem that make our domestic sports work. That's number one. Number two, we have to refocus, which means we have to be intentional and deliberate about it. Whatever we need to do to jumpstart this sports economy, we have to do it. That's why, for example, now in the sport festival, we have created the Federation for the Esports, which is another version of sport, all clearly, which is how massive can get millions of people employed with all the opportunities we have in Nigeria. It is being demonstrated at a sport festival, and is a feature for the young people in Nigeria, over 70% of them, that's where they can get their energy and earn revenues to do that. So we are trying to create it to do that. So many things we are doing on that kind of basis like that. Then we have to clean up the sports and make it look more positive. Stop all the toxic things around it and make it more positive so that the investors and the corporate bodies will come and put in the money required to jumpstart the system and complement what the government is doing to do that. So,
yeah, Mr. Diko, so let's put some specifics to it. I like the direction you're going. So there are two things that are not in short supply: talent and passion. They are not in short supply. So I've been looking at, as I said, infrastructure and broadcast are the game changers. So give us a timeline of what you're trying to achieve between upscaling and jump-starting this, to say between now and say let's use a political time, 2027, what do you intend to achieve in terms of infrastructure and in terms of broadcast? Because those are the key game changers in this. Because we can't, if we don't do this, we may not be able to do all these opens and seasons that we talk about.
We can't do that. Definitely, that's very correct. And infrastructure, if you look at it, for the first time in the history of sports in Nigeria, if you check the budget of the National Sports Commission, our budget is up like over 300%. They said it's the best budget for sports.
How much is it now, sir?
Well, it's quite decent amount of money, though it can be better. But the president.
I'll look for it.
Yeah, look for it. You know, but the president Bola Ahmed Tinubu have shown his way. Has shown his hand. Has shown the first step to do that by making this is the best budget for sports in like 60 years or thereabout. And if you look at those funding that has been given to sports, it's not for competitions. They're targeted clearly at the key infrastructures. For example, Abuja Stadium has money to fix it, to bring it back to life. There are funding to fix some other stadiums across the country. There are funding to start building the sports centers, mini sports centers for the communities across the country. There are processes to also concession some of the major sport facilities to get some private sector to run with it. So infrastructure is key as a foundation. So between now and December, I'm sure if I've been following what we are doing, a few months ago I was in UK, London, everywhere, trying to bring the best partners that are in the stadium infrastructure development companies to come and work with us and upscale our sports to the best level. I met them there. They were in Abuja last month as well, early this month, to do the same thing. So we are fixing that. Hopefully we'll start fixing Abuja by end of the year. Abuja should start running to be the foundation. And then we're creating what we call the sports cities. It's not just about building the infrastructure. The infrastructure must be giving you money 24/7. So like Abuja Stadium, Lagos Stadium, Kaduna, Ibadan, we call them sports city. We're also building other appertaining infrastructures around the stadium, like the shopping malls, like the hotels, like the convention centers, like amusement parks and arenas and whatever, so that the sports facilities we have will be generating money 24/7. That is what is happening all over the world. You can't wait until you are playing a match before you use it. So we are working on that. We have got partners there. We are having conversation on that, private sector to do that. Hopefully, all this will start coming together by the end of the year to do that. And broadcast also, if you check the budget of sports also, there's a dedicated funding in 2025 to fix and to acquire new sport broadcast infrastructures, because that's the biggest missing link in our sports economy. It's producing our sports content.
Right.
But today, if you want to produce like a single football match in Nigeria, will cost you between 30 to 40 million. Why? Because of deficit of infrastructure. So we are trying to break that cycle and make sure every zone of the country we have a proper, dedicated sports infrastructure, the OV vans, and we have trained people in that zone. That will make it easier to move around that zone and cover every sport activity at a minimal cost, and then put it out to do that. We, myself and the NTA DG, the NBC DG, and everybody were also in Paris, speaking with the people that supply these infrastructures in Nigeria before we have them. They are packed somewhere.
And there are private sector players who can provide some of these infrastructure, manpower, and the rest. So I think that's where collaboration comes on board, and that's why we're having this conversation. We know you have a lot of job to do. We wish you the very best because sports, as I said, is one very tricky subject. We're hoping that all our stadia can be world-class at this point. But so far, we have to thank you so much. I know that the closing ceremony is on Thursday.
Yeah, it's on Thursday.
Of the National Sports Festival.
And it's going to be another great show.
That's May 29th.
Yeah.
How come?
Yeah, we put it that way.
All right.
Because May 29th is our Democracy Day.
It'll be good to see the president there. But Chairman, we have to thank you so much. Clearly, this is just the start of a conversation. We'll have this from time to time, get updates. We've been speaking with the chairman of the National Sports Commission, whom I describe sometimes as a minister for sports unofficially. Mr. Sheudiko, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for the...
Thank you. So we wish all of our states the very best at the National Sports Festival, particularly my own state. But we'll take a quick break now. When we return, we have two amazing young women joining us. Stay with us.
All right, let's talk to some women in business. What is a Monday without some breakfast? Well, they will guide us through what they have on offer this morning because they're in that business. Deborah Joole is the founder, cake artist, and also of More Creamy Confectionaries. I want to be sure I pronounce that correctly. And also Zoe Lawal is a nutritionist and also the co-founder of Zainectar Limited. Yes. Both of you joining us in our Lagos studio. I almost sent you to Abuja in just a moment. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Talk to us about, in fact, I'm curious about now it's not just about baking cakes. It's about the artistry itself. I've seen cakes and I'm like, okay, is this really a cake? Tell us what's going on.
So, like, I like to introduce myself. I call myself a cake artist because there is more that goes into just cakes. The creativity, telling a story. You want me to replicate something. That is the artistry that goes into the baking business now. And it goes just beyond eating cake. And of course, putting smiles on faces when you say, oh, we can replicate someone that looks exactly like you. And yes, so you just smile. So that is the point in it now. Yeah, thank you.
So the only problem I have with it is that it looks so good until the bills come in. Friend.
Well, for me, in as much as, you know, it can be expensive because of...
Thank you for admitting.
Because of what the economy says. Okay. I try to create something also affordable for people. So I can work with your budget and I can work with an open check.
Well, we're going to come to the cost part. Let's talk about you. Now, to eat the right set of food is a great idea. But again, budget is a problem. So we're doing women in business because not just that we're showcasing your work, we also want to know how you're navigating the difficult economic situation. So everybody knows nutrition is great and they can guess a combination just going online from people like you, but activating it in real life is a challenge. So as a business person, how are you working around that?
It could get very pricey, but since everything we're working with has to do with fruits, vegetables, and roots, we have it all around us here in Africa. So sometimes we don't even have to break our banks to
no,
be
we
able
do.
to.
I bought apple the other day, 1,000 naira for one.
Yeah, it happens.
Avocado.
Like that too. But then we still have to live healthy. We still have to stay on that healthy track for our own benefits.
So let me come to you, our baker, Deborah. You definitely just talked about something very, very important that is shaping the industry, the confectioneries industry. and that is price. You know, the cake looks fantastic until you give us the bill. And, you know, we must have our cakes at those weddings. We must have our cakes at those anniversaries and parties. Talk to us about, you know, some of the challenges in the baking space, you know, in the baking industry that is causing those prices to be high, and how you are dealing with them.
So currently, even the economy is challenging, but still we find a way around it. Like I said earlier, we try to work with your budget at the same time. Unlike her, that some of the things are produced here, well, some of our things, not everything is produced here, but some we get here, like the flour, the sugar, and everything. Regardless, whether the dollar increases, whether it fluctuates, whether the economy goes in, and we just still try to navigate around it. We look for alternatives. For instance, now, these days we have eggless cakes where you don't have to use egg because egg is expensive.
It still comes out well.
Yes, and because egg is expensive. So we try to improvise. We have the oil-based cakes where you don't have to use the butter or the margarine because it is expensive. So we try to improvise. And so that's how, for me, I think that I've been able to navigate, look at what works, and still comes out great and beautiful, and just go for it.
Okay, so Zoe, talk to us about nutrition options for those who want to eat healthy, and those of us who have sweet tooth and will go for their breast cakes and eat chunks of it. I see a lot of, you know, creativity in parties now, you know, where you have variety of options, even sometimes gari, sometimes boli. Can parties do without experts, you know, for counsel on how to make people enjoy the parties and at the same time, you know, they eat healthy, they don't go away, you know, with extra calories on their bodies?
Yes, I think it's very possible. For instance, if we're going with confectionaries, we don't necessarily have to go with preservatives and sugar. We can always go for natural substances. Instead of going for sugar, you can use dates. Instead of going for something chemically made, you can opt for something natural, something more natural to improvise, like she said. So most of the time, I just feel like we have to cut down very well on sugar and processed foods to enable us to be more healthy, to live a healthy life and a much more long-lasting life. So instead of going for sugar and processed food, why not just opt for something natural? And it's still tasty, it's still delicious, it's still sweet, and it doesn't necessarily have to hurt us or increase our calories and be detriment to our health.
We can't conclude this conversation without talking about what demands you make of government. It's a lived-in reality you're having now. You are seeing, you had an experience before the president came into power, and the policy of government has brought us into this very tight situation. So if you were to sit down with the president, and this is for both of you, taking turns to say, it's challenging for us. What kind of incentives would you be asking for to be able to scale your business or even stay afloat? Because some people are not even talking about scaling now, just to stay alive first.
So inflation plays a major role in my business because when dollar rises, a lot of things goes up. So if that can be regulated, if so many things can be produced there, if there's constant power supply, if there's easy transportation, quite a lot of things to make it easier for us, not just for me, I'm sure many other business owners. So if that can be regulated, everybody will be happy.
The sector is focused on not just producing healthy juices, but also reaching out to people in the rural areas, widows, orphans, and whatnot. So if we're going to help and empower those people, I feel like we can work hand in hand with the government where they can provide us infrastructures, provide us amenities, fundings, grants that can help us to reach our certain goals and reach out to those particular people. We're all about helping the community, both the rural and the urban areas, helping everybody as one and living a very good and strong, long-lasting life. So.
First, we must commend you for even daring to set out as a business person. It's not easy, especially now, it's not easy. So thank you for staying the course, and we hope Nigeria is going to get better for all of us.
We hope so.
Deborah Ajole is the founder and cake artist as well. More Creamy Confectionaries. Zoella Hall is a nutritionist and co-founder of Zenectar Limited. I pronounce that correctly.
Yeah, Zenectar.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up the show. Join us again.
And there you have it. What a show it has been today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm karaoke killing.
You forgot that momentarily. Of course, we're back again the entire week with, ideal breakfast options for you. Not just cake and nectar, but the conversations as well. Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Koka.
Don't forget, Sunrise Daily is up at the top of the hour. We don't know whether PDP will hold his neck on tomorrow. And let's see what plays out on Inauguration Day, May the 29th. Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Zoma. Bye-bye.